Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe it. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
You're reporting tonight that the FBI obtained a FISA warrant on Carter Page, a Trump campaign advisor. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so basically, you have to understand the context, and basically over the summer, the intelligence community was getting information about Russia trying to meddle in the presidential election, and they were, as we learned last month, Comey, the FBI director, had initiated a counterintelligence investigation in July. Mm-hmm. And based on our reporting and interviews with multiple officials, law enforcement and otherwise, what the FBI did was obtain a FISA warrant to basically monitor the communications of Carter Page, who had been identified by Trump in March as one of his foreign policy advisors. And from there, that warrant, which typically lasts 90 days, was renewed at least once, if not multiple times.
Oh.
And in order to do that, one would assume that there must be some information in order for them. There's a reason for them to continue to renew it, because if no information was found, you would assume that they wouldn't continue to renew the warrant.
You would.
Yeah, certainly they had to establish what's known as probable cause, that they thought that there were connections between Page and the Russians that crossed a threshold that made the FBI believe that he could be acting as effectively a foreign agent. Oh. And so once they had made that case, and it's a very the threshold is rather high to make that case to target an American, they basically they went and sought a FISA judge concurrence and got the order to start the monitoring. What they've obtained from that monitoring, we don't know. We don't know if they heard anything in those first few months that prompted the judge to decide to continue the monitoring, or if it was
or it just felt like
hear something that the judge thought was interesting and warranted continuing it. So there's obviously a lot more reporting that needs to be done to get at what was learned as a result of this monitoring.
Page issued a statement, and I'll read part of it. He says, there have been various reports about FISA docs and FBI surveillance of him, but I was so happy to hear that further confirmation is now being revealed. It shows how low the Clinton-Obama regime went to destroy our democracy and suppress dissidents who did not fully support their failed foreign policy. It will be interesting to see what comes out when the unjustified basis for those FISA requests are more fully disclosed over time, including potentially the dodgy dossier, a document that clearly is false evidence which could represent yet another potential crime.
Oh, and if Bannon gets fired today or tomorrow, it'd be a Passover miracle, wouldn't it? Carter Page got a FISA warrant. Probable cause that he was acting as a Russian spy. A Russian spy, everybody. Carter Page. Oh, my God. And he was in the dossier. I actually have the pages that refer to Carter Page in the dossier, and this is the section that refers to Carter Page. This is what the MI6 officer Chris Steele was putting together as opposition research for Trump, for the Trump campaign. And then he saw some stuff that was just so freaky that he quit the Trump campaign. And then the Democrats hired him to continue to investigate. He was so concerned with what he was finding, though, Chris Steele was, that he handed it over to Comey. He gave it to the FBI. Isn't that special? And here's why. Now you're starting to see why. I wonder if Manafort's next. I wonder if he's next in the barrel. Just to quote Roger Stone. Maybe he's next in the barrel. We know Mike Flynn's been in the barrel. Jeff Sessions in the barrel. Now Carter Page is in the barrel. Who could be next? Manafort would be in the barrel. Maybe Rudy Giuliani will get in the barrel. Oh, it's so good. This is such a novel, except it's real. It's, the autobiography of how Moron Boy became president of the United States. It's just, it's an amazing story. It's just, so here's what the dossier said. With regard to Carter Page, this is Chris Steele writing. He said, Trump advisor Carter Page holds secret meetings in Moscow with Igor Sechin and senior Kremlin internal affairs official Divyakin. Sechin raises issues of future bilateral U.S.-Russian energy cooperation and the associated lifting of sanctions by the West against Russia over Ukraine. Page, not committal in response. I mean, somebody's listening on these phone calls, right? Divyakin discusses release of Russian dossier of compromat on Trump opponent Hillary Clinton, but also hints Kremlin in possession of such material on Trump. We all know that's the PP video. Speaking in July 2016, a Russian source close to Rosneft President Putin, close associate and U.S.-sanctioned individual Igor Sechin, confided the details of a recent secret meeting between him and visiting affairs advisor to Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump, Carter Page. According to Sechin's associate, the Rosneft president CEO had raised with Page the issues of future bilateral energy cooperation and prospects for an associated move to lift Ukraine-related Western sanctions against Russia. Page had reacted positively to this démarche by Sechin, but had been generally non-committal in his response. Speaking separately, also in July 2016, an official close to President administration head S. Ivanov confided in a compatriot that a senior colleague in the internal political department of the PA, Divyakin, had also met secretly with Page on his recent visit. Their agenda had included Divyakin raising a dossier of compromat the Kremlin possessed on Trump's Democratic presidential rival Hillary Clinton and its possible release to the Republican campaign team. However, the Kremlin official close to Ivanov added that she or he believed Divyakin also hinted or indicated more strongly that the Russian leadership also had compromat on Trump, which the latter should bear in mind in his dealings with them. And then he just summarizes. Kremlin concerned that political fallout from DNC. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is a separate section. This is about how Russia started moving away from Trump because they were concerned that America was getting hip to what happened. So now we know that whatever it was that was in the dossier, we know parts of the dossier have been confirmed. Other parts of the dossier have not. Guess which part has not? The golden part. And so what we now know is that whatever it was that was given to the FBI in June or July was important enough for Comey to go to the FISA court, present a stack of papers, which he refers to as being as thick as his wrist. He's very big boned because he's tall. My Comey, my boyfriend. And he was able to get a FISA warrant on an American citizen. He was able to get a FISA warrant, a phone tap. He was able to spy on Carter Page because he believed Carter Page was a spy for Russia and was passing papers back and forth. And he's been doing it since 2013. He believed that that was true. But this now is the clearest evidence so far that the FBI had reason to believe that during the 2016 presidential campaign, that a Trump campaign advisor was in touch with Russian agents. This is the center of the investigation that Comey is undertaking. And what's really fascinating is that means that Susan Rice and Evelyn Farkas on that Friday freaking Farkas fracas, then that didn't play. That didn't play in Peoria. So they stopped the Farkas fracas and they moved on to throwing Susan Rice at the wall to see what Rice would stick. That Susan Rice had done absolutely nothing, and that Devin Nunes and others have been lying about Trump being surveilled by the Obama administration. Oh no, this was the FBI and the FISA court. And this was in response to a giant case being made that there was probable cause to believe that Carter Page was acting as a Russian spy, that he was acting as a Russian agent. Now, before we move on, I'll show you how Susan Rice is still being attacked. It's really pretty disgusting. And, today was the big meeting in Russia between... Putin said he wasn't going to meet with Rex Tillerson, even though they're best friends. And, they've actually, Putin has, given Rex Tillerson a friendship award, like the second highest award that Russia gives and the only American to receive it to Rex, but then all of a sudden he gave him a cold shoulder and said, Rex, I can't meet with you. I can't. It'll look at what it'll look like. OK, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say I'm not meeting with you. And then, of course, you'll come all this way. You'll sit with Lavrov for the afternoon. And then the next day I'll meet with you. And then you and Lavrov can have a press conference. But yes, of course, I need to know what's going on inside the Trump administration, and you're the only person who could tell me. So of course I'm going to meet with you. Of course I am. Just, ignore. And that's exactly what happened. So it was an amazing press conference. It was really sick. Russia is saying that not only didn't they know Syria was going to launch, but Syria didn't launch those chemical weapons. The rebels did, and they're very sure. And why didn't we give them any proof if we could prove otherwise? And of course, we've got declassified documents now that clearly show that Assad gassed his own people and that Russia was given a heads up. So the question in this stupid meeting that they had today, this dog and pony show in Russia, is how come Rex Tillerson went all that way? It's an 8.5 hour time. It's an 8 hour time difference, right? So why did he go all that way and not bring the proof? Don't you think that's interesting? Because Lavrov was saying today, why don't you show us some proof? Show us some proof. Show us that we hacked your election. Well, we have all this proof, but he went all that way and neglected to carry with him a briefcase. Jesus. But anyway, Manafort, let's go over Manafort right now. There are now new documents. There are new financial records that the Associated Press has uncovered with regard to Paul Manafort. You remember Paul Manafort was a lobbyist for Viktor Yanukovych, who was the pro-Russian dictator in Ukraine, who allowed he had lost all these fixed elections. I mean, and then Manafort was hired to get him, elected, and it took years and years. And they finally placed Yanukovych in Ukraine. And then, the people rose up and they protested and they threw him out. And Yanukovych fled to Russia. And as soon as Yanukovych fled back to Putin's loving arms, then Putin invades Ukraine. Okay, so that's the thing. And Manafort was the lobbyist for Yanukovych and had been for years. And remember, after they threw out Yanukovych, the people of Ukraine went and stormed his palatial digs, okay, his mansion with his gold toilets. But the most important thing that they found was a ledger. And that ledger was, when they found it, they gave, the Ukrainian people gave that information to the New York Times. And that's when Paul Manafort got fired. After that ledger, the black ledger, became public knowledge in the United States. That's when, Trump fires Manafort. Okay, so Manafort's acting as the campaign manager. This all happens. And they all, Manafort says exactly what Carter Page said. You people are just, there's something wrong with you. This never happened. I never met with these people. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't receive any payments. Well, the AP has found the financial records that confirm that at least $1.2 million in payments listed in the handwritten black ledger next to Manafort's name were actually received by Paul Manafort's consulting firm in the United States. The ledger entries about transfers of money to Paul Manafort match. At least $1.2 million of it match. Payments went out in 2007 and payments went out in 2009. This is the first evidence that Manafort's firm got at least some of the money listed in the black ledger. So the first two payments came before he was involved in Trump's campaign, but this is the first time that the credibility of the ledger has been verified. Same with this dossier written by Chris Steele. You're suddenly getting portions of the dossier slowly verified. And another part of the dossier that's been suddenly verified now is Carter Page's involvement in Russia and being a Russian agent. And the FISA warrant is real. It was issued. Carter Page was the subject of it. Probable cause was not only shown to the court once to get the original FISA warrant, but they have to be renewed every 90 days. And when they went back after 3 months, The judge said they showed enough that was going on. The judge said, all right, I'll renew it. I'll renew it. Go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.